The intelligence came from multiple sources, all saying the same thing. A massive coalition fleet was being assembled. Corporate interests, military powers, and opportunistic factions had formed an alliance with one goal: to capture all the Calith bioships by force. The fleet numbered 300 vessels, the largest military gathering in decades. But the intelligence also revealed something else. Elder Synthal brought the information to Daeho late one night, his expression mixing hope and fear. "There is one more ship," Synthal said. "The legends spoke of it, but I never knew if it truly existed. The Dawn's Promise, a vessel not built for war but for creation. It was the largest bioship ever grown, capable of creating new vessels if the proper conditions were met." "Where is it?" Daeho asked. "In the ruins of our home system, the place where my people died. No one has searched there because the system is unstable, dangerous. But if the Dawn's Promise still exists, if we can find it before the Coalition does, we might have a chance." They gathered more allies for the journey. Jae Young, a human shipwright, brought 200 volunteers who wanted to help crew the awakened Calith vessels. More ships joined their small fleet, volunteers from a dozen different species who believed the Calith deserved protection. The journey to the Calith home system took 2 weeks. What they found was heartbreaking. The star was barely stable, flickering with irregular energy patterns. Planets that had once supported billions of Calith were now shattered debris. The entire system was a graveyard. But hidden in the ruins of the 5th planet, buried in an asteroid field, they found the Dawn's Promise. It was enormous, 15 kilometers long, dwarfing even the Eternal Dawn. The ship's systems were in deep hibernation, even more dormant than the other vessels had been. They woke Matriarch Ilvera from her stasis pod first. She had been the leader of the Dawn's Promise, the keeper of the Calith's deepest secrets. When she learned what had happened to her civilization, she wept. But then she dried her tears and got to work. "The Dawn's Promise is not a weapon," Ilvera explained. "It is a forge, a place where new bioships can be grown. But the process requires willing partnership between the ship and those who would bond with it. The old powers wanted to force this process to enslave Calith and use us as living components for mass-produced warships. We refused, and we died for that refusal." "Can you activate it?" Daeho asked. "Yes, but we must be careful. If we use it wrong, if we treat it as merely a factory for weapons, it will fail. The bioships only respond to those who respect the partnership they offer." They didn't have much time. The Coalition fleet arrived just as they were beginning to power up the Dawn's Promise. 300 warships dropped out of hyperspace and immediately formed a battle formation around the Calith system. Grand Admiral Vortek commanded the fleet. His face appeared on every display screen as he broadcast his ultimatum. "You are surrounded and outnumbered. Surrender all Calith vessels immediately. This is not a negotiation." Daeho stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, his crew around him. Subin at her pillar, ready to fly. Taemin at systems monitoring everything. Dan coordinating their small defense fleet. Hana at communications. Elder Synthal and Matriarch Ilvera stood together, their people's last hope resting on what happened next. "We can't win this fight," Taemin said. It was just a fact, not defeatism. 300 ships against their small fleet was impossible odds. "We don't need to win," Daeho said slowly. An idea was forming in his mind. "We just need to show them why they can't have what they want." "What are you thinking?" Hana asked. "The Coalition wants the technology. They want to control it, weaponize it, use it for power. But the bioships don't work that way. They only respond to partnership, to respect. If we can show the galaxy that truth. If we can prove that forcing this technology will always fail, then there's no point in taking it." "How do we prove that?" Subin asked. "We give them what they want. We give everyone the knowledge." Matriarch Ilvera's eyes widened with understanding. "You want to broadcast the bioship technology to the entire galaxy, freely?" "Yes. Everything. How the ships work, how they bond with crews, how new ones can be grown. But most importantly, we show them the truth. These ships only work when there's mutual respect and willing cooperation. Any attempt to enslave or force the process causes complete failure. They'll think it's a trick, Dan warned. Maybe at first, but once they try and fail to force the technology, they'll understand. The Coalition fleet opened fire. Energy beams lanced across space toward the small gathering of Kalith ships and their defenders. But Deho had already made his decision. Instead of fighting back, he activated the Dawn's promise. The massive bioship came to full power, its systems flooding with energy that lit up the entire asteroid field. And then it began broadcasting. Every piece of Kalith knowledge, every secret of bioship technology, every detail of how the ships were grown and bonded, all of it transmitted on every known frequency to every corner of the galaxy. The Coalition fleet hesitated. Ships stopped firing as their crews began receiving the transmission. The information was complete, detailed, actionable. Everything they had wanted to capture through force was now being freely given. But embedded in the transmission was the crucial truth. The biological components of the bioships would only bond with those who approach them with respect and genuine partnership. Any attempt to enslave the technology, to force it into pure military service, would cause the organic systems to reject the user and shut down completely. The ships couldn't be weaponized against their nature. Within the Coalition fleet, crew members began to understand. Officers refused orders to continue the attack. Several ships broke formation, their crews no longer willing to fight for technology they now realized couldn't be taken by force. Grand Admiral Vortek tried to rally his fleet for a final assault, but his own officers staged a mutiny. They had seen the transmission. They understood that what they were fighting for was worthless if taken through violence. The battle ended without the destruction Deho had feared. The Coalition fleet broke apart, ships departing in different directions as the alliance of greed fell apart. In the aftermath, something remarkable happened. The galaxy's response to the free transmission of Kalith knowledge was overwhelmingly positive. Species from across known space expressed interest in partnering with the Kalith, in learning to grow and bond with bioships through proper methods. But they understood now that it required patience, respect, and genuine cooperation. The Galactic Trade Council formally recognized Kalith sovereignty. Humans and Kalith formed an official alliance, the Partnership of Dawns. The Dawn's promise began growing new bioships, but only for those who passed careful ethical evaluation and demonstrated genuine commitment to partnership rather than domination. Deho remained captain of the Eternal Dawn, but he turned down offers of military rank or political position. He preferred to continue exploring, searching for lost civilizations and forgotten technology that might need protection. 5 years. After that day in the salvage yard when he bought a rejected ship, Deho stood on the bridge with his crew. They had just received a distress signal from deep space from a source that wasn't in any known database. Another mystery, Subin said, already interfacing with the navigation systems. Another chance to help someone, Hana added. Elder Synthal placed a hand on Deho's shoulder. You taught us that the greatest strength isn't in taking what you want, but in protecting what needs protection. Shall we go see who needs help? Deho smiled. Set course for the signal source. Let's go meet our newest friends. The Eternal. Dawn, once abandoned and rejected by everyone who saw it, turned toward the unknown signal and jumped into hyperspace. In the cargo bay, young Kalith trained alongside human volunteers, learning to bond with the new bioships being grown in the Dawn's promise. In the engineering sections, Taman and Bora cataloged discoveries that would benefit the entire galaxy. The rejected ship had indeed become the greatest, not through force or conquest, but through the simple human virtue of seeing value where others saw only failure, and choosing partnership over domination. The stars held countless more mysteries, and the crew of the Eternal Dawn would face them together, human and Kalith side by side, proving every day that the galaxy's future belonged to those who chose cooperation over control. Jiwoo arrived on the Eternal Dawn 3 days later with medical equipment and a team of xenobiologists. She was a human doctor who specialized in alien physiology, one of the few experts willing to work on such an unprecedented project. The challenge excited her more than the danger scared her. We'll need to revive them slowly, Jiwoo explained as she examined the stasis pods. Start with medical personnel and engineers from the Calith crew. Let them help us wake the others. The psychological shock will be enormous. They'll need their own people to help them adjust. The first Calith they revived was Elder Synthal, a scientist who had been responsible for maintaining the ship's biological systems. The stasis pod opened with a hiss of released pressure. Synthal looked human at first glance, but his skin had a faint blue tint and his eyes were larger, adapted for different light conditions. He blinked awake slowly, confused. When he saw Daeho and the others standing around him, his expression shifted from confusion to shock to grief in quick succession. Daeho watched as understanding came to the Calith's eyes. 800 years had passed. Everything Synthal had known was gone. How long? Synthal asked in the Calith language. The ship's AI translated instantly. 800 years, Daeho said softly. I'm sorry. Your civilization fell during the predecessor war. Synthal closed his eyes. When he opened them again, tears ran down his blue-tinted cheeks. Then we are the last? There are 3,000 of your people on this ship, and we found evidence of 47 other Calith vessels scattered across the galaxy. You're not alone. Over the next month, they carefully revived more Calith. Each awakening brought the same initial grief, the same crushing realization of loss. But Jiwoo had been right about having Calith medical personnel help with the process. Elder Synthal and the other early revivals became essential in helping their people cope with the trauma. Synthal spent hours with Daeho, learning about the modern galaxy and sharing knowledge about Calith technology. They developed a deep friendship despite the vast cultural differences between them. Your people chose to help us, Synthal said one evening in the observation deck. You could have kept the ship for yourselves, used it as a weapon. But you chose to wake us instead. Why? Because it was the right thing to do, Daeho replied. Human philosophy teaches us that all intelligent life has value. We couldn't let you sleep forever when we had the power to wake you. Not all species in the old galaxy thought that way. The powers that destroyed my civilization saw us only as tools to be used or threats to be eliminated. Synthal looked out at the stars. The Calith refused to weaponize our bioship technology. We built our ships to sustain life, not end it. We were punished for that choice. Things are different now, Daeho said, though he wasn't entirely sure he believed it. He was right to have doubts. Intelligence reports from Hyon, a human operative working with Counselor Yon, revealed that multiple factions were mobilizing to capture the Calith ships. Corporate interests wanted the technology. Military powers saw the bioships as the ultimate weapons. Even some governments viewed the awakened Calith as security risks. The first attack came when the Eternal Dawn was traveling through the Korath asteroid field, searching for another hibernating Calith vessel. Mercenary ships ambushed them from hiding positions among the asteroids. Subin's piloting skills and the ship's superior maneuverability saved them, but it was a close fight. The second attack was more subtle. A saboteur infiltrated the ship during a supply stop at what was supposed to be a neutral station. Dan, a former human marine who had joined as security chief, caught the infiltrator trying to plant a device that would have disabled the ship's organic systems. We can't keep fighting off attacks forever, Taemin said during a council meeting. Every time we locate another Calith ship, we paint a bigger target on ourselves. Then we need allies, Hana suggested. She had finally joined her brother on the Eternal Dawn, using her administrative skills to coordinate their growing operation. We need other species to understand that the Calith are people deserving protection, not resources to be exploited. They made a public broadcast, showing the awakened Calith to the galaxy. Elder Synthal spoke about his people's history, their philosophy, and their hope for peaceful coexistence with modern civilizations. The response was mixed. Many species expressed support, particularly humans who saw protecting the Calith as a moral imperative. But the military and corporate powers remained hostile. Admiral Karvesh of the Dominion fleet represented the biggest threat. The Dominion was a loose alliance of military powers that prized strength above all else. Karvesh saw the Calith bioships as weapons that could tip the balance of power in the galaxy. We will have those ships, Karvesh declared in a public statement, either through negotiation or through force. The galaxy is too dangerous to allow such powerful technology to exist in uncontrolled hands. The confrontation came in the Helion system, where sensors had detected 2 more hibernating Calith vessels. The Eternal Dawn arrived to find Karvesh waiting with 40 warships. This is your final warning, Karvesh transmitted. Surrender the vessels to Dominion custody or be destroyed. Daeho looked at his crew. Subin at her pillar, hands already interfaced with the ship's controls. Taemin monitoring systems. Dan coordinating defensive positions. Jiwoo ensuring the awakened Kaleth were safe in protected areas. Synthal standing beside him offering quiet support. Hana at communications already sending distress signals to any friendly forces in range. "We can't fight 40 ships," Taemin said quietly. "Not even with the Eternal Dawn's capabilities." "We won't have to," Subin said, a strange smile on her face. "I've been practicing with the neural interface. I can do things with this ship that aren't in any manual. Trust me." The Dominion fleet opened fire. Energy beams and missiles filled space in a concentrated barrage designed to overwhelm any defense. But Subin was already moving, pushing the Eternal Dawn through maneuvers that seemed to defy physics. The ship twisted through space like a living creature, avoiding fire that should have been impossible to dodge. The awakened Kaleth pilots joined the fight, interfacing with secondary control systems and coordinating with Subin. The combined human creativity and Kaleth instinctive understanding of their bioship technology created something new, a fusion of tactics that neither species could have achieved alone. They disabled ship after ship, targeting engines and weapons with precision strikes. The Dominion formation fell apart as vessels went dark or spun out of control. Within an hour, half of Karavesh's fleet was disabled. Then human reinforcements arrived. Captain Seo-jun led 50 human warships into the battle, ships that had been quietly mobilized by Counselor Yan and other sympathetic government officials. The humans hadn't abandoned the Kaleth to face this threat alone. Karavesh withdrew, his fleet battered and his confidence shaken. The two hibernating Kaleth vessels were successfully secured and towed to safety. After the battle, Daeho stood with Elder Synthal in the observation deck again. They watched the damaged Dominion ships limping away into hyperspace. "Your people fought for us," Synthal said. "Not for technology or advantage, but because it was right. The old galaxy had species like that, but they were rare. Perhaps this new galaxy is different." "Some of it is," Daeho admitted. "But we've made a lot of enemies today. This isn't over." "No," Synthal agreed. "But we're not alone anymore. The Kaleth choose humanity as our partner species, Daeho. You saved us when you could have exploited us. You fought for us when you could have abandoned us. That is a debt we can never fully repay. You don't owe us anything. We're just doing what's right." Synthal smiled. "That is exactly why we choose you." Subin arrived on a fast courier ship with 40 minutes to spare before the corporate fleet reached firing range. She was a compact woman with short black hair and the confident movements of someone who had spent years in military service. Daeho met her at the airlock. "You said you had an interesting flying job," Subin said. "You didn't mention it was an 800-year-old alien warship being chased by corporate mercenaries. Would you have come if I told you?" "Probably not." "Where's the bridge?" They ran through the corridors to what the ship's AI designated as the command center. It was nothing like a modern ship's bridge. Instead of chairs and consoles, there was a circular platform in the center of the room, surrounded by crystalline pillars that pulsed with light. Display screens made of some kind of organic material grew from the walls, showing tactical information and symbols that shifted to human-readable text as they watched. "How do I fly this thing?" Subin asked. "The AI says the ship responds to neural commands from the captain and designated crew," Taemin explained. "You need to touch one of the interface pillars and think about what you want the ship to do." "That's insane. It's Kaleth technology. Just try it." Subin placed her hands on the nearest pillar. Her eyes widened. "I can feel it, the ship. I can sense the engines, the power flow, the hull integrity. It's like the ship is part of my body." "Corporate fleet entering weapons range in 5 minutes," the AI announced calmly. "Subin, we need to move," Daeho urged. "Give me a second. I'm learning how to walk again." Subin closed her eyes, her hands gripping the pillar. The Eternal Dawn began to accelerate, smoothly at first, then faster. Within seconds, they were moving at speeds that should have been impossible for a ship of this size. The corporate fleet opened fire. Energy beams and kinetic projectiles filled the space where the Eternal Dawn had been moments before. But Subin was already moving, dancing the massive warship through space with precision that seemed impossible. "Shields are holding," Taemin reported from another console. "They're adapting to the incoming fire. Each shot that hits makes the shield stronger against that weapon type." Admiral Thex, commander of the corporate fleet, opened a communication channel, His face appeared on the main display, showing a scarred alien face with cold eyes. You cannot win this fight. Surrender the vessel now and you will be compensated fairly. This ship isn't yours to take, Deho responded. Leave us alone. That ship represents technology worth trillions of credits. I have 12 warships. You have 1 damaged relic. Do the math. The corporate ships adjusted their formation, trying to surround the Eternal Dawn, but Subin was already moving, using the ship's superior speed to avoid being trapped. She flew through the corporate formation, forcing them to stop firing or risk hitting each other. I need weapons, Subin said through gritted teeth. I can dodge all day, but we need to hit back. Working on it, Taemin said, his hands flying across his console. The weapon systems are online, but I don't know how to fire them. Let me, Deho said. He placed his hand on another pillar and focused on the weapon systems. The ship responded immediately. Information flooded into his mind. Particle beams, void manipulation cannons, organic missiles that could track targets through hyperspace. The weapons were unlike anything in the modern galactic arsenal. Target their weapons and engines only, Deho ordered. I don't want to kill anyone. The Eternal Dawn fired for the first time in 800 years. Beams of purple energy lanced out from hidden ports along the hull, striking corporate warships with surgical precision. Weapons turrets exploded into debris. Engine sections went dark. Within 3 minutes, half of Admiral Thex's fleet was disabled and drifting. Impossible, Thex whispered, watching his tactical display. One ship shouldn't be able to do this. Leave, Deho repeated. Take your disabled ships and go. This is your only warning. The remaining corporate vessels retreated, collecting their damaged ships and withdrawing from the system. The battle had lasted less than 10 minutes. The Eternal Dawn hadn't received a single serious hit. Subin slumped against the interface pillar, breathing hard. That was intense. I've never felt anything like it. The ship was showing me where to go, helping me avoid fire. It was like we were thinking together. The neural interface creates a bond between pilot and ship, Bora explained. She had been monitoring everything from the engineering bay. The Caliph designed their vessels to work in harmony with their crews, not just be controlled by them. Word of the battle spread across the galactic communication networks within hours. A single ancient warship had defeated a corporate fleet without taking damage. Everyone wanted to know more about the Eternal Dawn and the human mechanic who had brought it back to life. The Galactic Trade Council called an emergency session. Counselor Yan, the human representative, contacted Deho directly. You've created a significant problem, Yan said. Her image appeared on the display, showing a middle-aged woman with tired eyes. Every military power in known space is now interested in your ship. Some want to study it, some want to copy it, some want to destroy it to prevent others from having it. We just defended ourselves, Deho protested. I know, but that doesn't change the situation. The council is demanding answers. They want to know where the ship came from, how you repaired it, and whether there are more like it. Bora stepped forward. Counselor, I can answer those questions. The Eternal Dawn is a Caliph world ship, one of the last surviving examples of their civilization. And according to the ship's database, there are 47 others still in existence scattered across the galaxy in various states of hibernation. The silence that followed was heavy. 47 more ships like the Eternal Dawn. 47 more vessels with technology centuries ahead of anything the current galaxy possessed. This changes everything, Yan said quietly. If those ships can be awakened... There's more, Bora continued. The ship's database contains detailed information about the Caliph themselves. They didn't go extinct from a supernova. They were wiped out during the predecessor war because they refused to weaponize their technology for the major powers of that era. The Eternal Dawn is carrying 3,000 Caliph refugees in stasis pods. They've been sleeping for 800 years. Deho felt the deck shift beneath his feet. 3,000 people, where? Hidden compartments throughout the ship. The AI kept them alive all this time, waiting for someone worthy to take command. Bora pulled up a schematic showing the locations of the stasis chambers. They're all still alive, Deho. 3,000 members of an extinct civilization, preserved in perfect condition. Wake them up, Deho said immediately. Are you certain? The AI asked. The galaxy has changed significantly in 800 years. The Caliph may face challenges adapting to the current political situation. They deserve the choice, Deho insisted. They deserve to live again. AI, can we safely begin the revival process? Affirmative. However, I must advise caution. The Caliph will be traumatized to learn their civilization fell. They will need time and support to adjust. Taman placed a hand on Deho's shoulder. This is bigger than repairing a ship now. You're talking about bringing back an entire species. I know, but isn't that what we're supposed to do? We humans always talk about preserving life, protecting the vulnerable. Here's our chance to actually do it. Subin nodded from her position at the pillar. He's right. If we have the ability to save these people and we don't, what does that make us? Quan, who had been quietly monitoring systems, spoke up. My people have a saying, a ship that carries life is more valuable than one that carries weapons. I think we have to try. Then we'll need help, Deho said. He turned to the communication console. Counselor Yun, I'm going to need medical personnel, xenobiologists, and probably a lot of diplomatic support. We're going to wake up the Caliph and we're going to need humanity's backing to protect them. Yun was quiet for a moment, then nodded slowly. I'll make some calls. But Deho, you realize what you're starting here? This will make you the biggest target in the galaxy. Every faction that wanted the technology will now want the Caliph themselves. Let them come, Deho said. The Eternal Dawn proved it can defend itself. And we're not doing this alone. After the communication ended, Deho stood on the bridge of the ancient warship and looked at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there were 47 more ships like this one, waiting to be found. And here in the chambers of the Eternal Dawn, 3,000 people slept through centuries, dreaming of a home that no longer existed. He had come to the salvage yard looking for spare parts. Instead, he had found something far more important, a chance to bring hope back to a species everyone thought was lost forever. Deho spent the next 3 days mapping the Eternal Dawn's internal systems. What he found amazed and terrified him in equal measure. The ship was far more advanced than anything the modern galaxy had built. Its systems were integrated in ways that shouldn't be possible, with power conduits that seemed to grow through the walls rather than being installed into them. He called Taimin, an old friend from his academy days. Taimin had also been blacklisted from corporate work after he exposed a company dumping toxic waste near a colony world. When Deho explained what he had found, Taimin arrived on Venros Prime within 2 days. This is incredible, Taimin said, running his scanner along one of the crystalline nodes. These readings show both organic tissue and metallic compounds existing in the same structure. That shouldn't be possible with our current understanding of materials science. The Caliph must have discovered something we haven't, Deho said. They found a way to merge living systems with machinery. But why? What's the advantage? Self-repair, adaptation, growth? Living things can heal themselves. Machines can't, not really. But if you combine them... Deho trailed off, his mind racing with possibilities. They needed expert help to understand what they were dealing with. Deho hired Bo-Ra, a xenoarchaeologist who specialized in extinct civilizations. She arrived with boxes of reference materials and a scanner array that cost more than most people's houses. Bo-Ra examined the ship's structure for a week before giving her analysis. They met in the engineering bay, surrounded by the pulsing crystalline nodes that had grown brighter since Deho first touched them. The Caliph were unique among known civilizations, Bo-Ra explained. They didn't just build their technology. They grew it. They used a form of bioengineering we've never been able to replicate. Their ships were partially alive, bonded to their crews on a biological level. What happened to them? Taimin asked. The official records say their star went supernova 800 years ago, but I've been researching deeper. The Caliph didn't die from a natural disaster. They were wiped out during the predecessor war, a conflict that most of galactic history has tried to forget. The Caliph refused to weaponize their bioship technology for the major powers. They were destroyed for that refusal. A cold feeling settled in Deho's stomach. So this ship is probably one of the last surviving examples of Caliph technology in the entire galaxy. And if word gets out that you're successfully repairing it, there will be people who want to take it from you. The warning came too late. Velthar, a corporate representative from the Kryn Salvage Consortium, showed up at the salvage yard the next day with legal documents and armed security. The Kryn were a species known for aggressive business practices and flexible ethics. This vessel represents significant cultural and technological value, Velthar announced, his translator giving his words a mechanical quality. The Kryn Consortium is prepared to purchase it for fair market value and conduct proper restoration. It's not for sale, Deho said. Everything is for sale at the right price. We're offering 200,000 credits. I said it's not for sale. Velthar's expression hardened. Then we'll file a legal claim. This ship is too dangerous to be in the hands of an unlicensed operator. The Galactic Trade Council will agree. The Kryn filed their injunction that afternoon. Hana, despite still being angry with her brother, used her position in the administrative office to delay the legal proceedings as much as possible. But everyone knew the delay wouldn't last forever. Deho pushed harder, working 18-hour days trying to understand the ship's systems. A young Venrosian named Quan started volunteering to help, fascinated by the alien technology. Quan's family disowned him for associating with the cursed ship, but he kept coming back anyway. The breakthrough came during the third month of work. Deho was trying to connect a modern power relay to one of the ship's primary conduits when his tool slipped. The sharp edge cut through his glove and into his palm. Blood dripped onto the crystalline node beneath. The node blazed with light. All around the engineering bay, thousands of other nodes lit up in sequence, creating waves of illumination that spread throughout the entire ship. The deck beneath their feet vibrated with sudden power. Air circulation systems that hadn't worked in 8 centuries kicked on with a deep hum. Display screens flickered to life, showing information in the Kalith language that slowly transformed into symbols they could understand. "What did you do?" Taemin asked, his voice filled with wonder. "I don't know. I just bled on it." Bora was already scanning the node where Deho's blood had made contact. The organic components are responding to human DNA. The Kalith must have been biologically similar to humans, at least in basic chemistry. The ship has been dormant because it was waiting for a compatible biological signature. Over the next few weeks, they learned more about how the ship functioned. It responded to Deho's presence more than anyone else's. Systems would activate when he touched them. The ship's AI, which every previous inspection had declared corrupted and dead, began sending signals through the display systems. They worked carefully to establish communication. The AI had been dormant, not damaged. It had been waiting just like the rest of the ship. When communication was finally established, the AI's first message was simple. "Captain, acknowledged. Core systems initializing. Captain." Deho said aloud. "I'm not a captain. I'm just a mechanic. You activated the ship. You bonded with its organic systems. By Kalith law and custom, you are the captain," Bora explained. "The ship has chosen you." That night, long-range sensors that shouldn't have been working yet suddenly activated. An alarm blared through the engineering bay. Taemin pulled up the sensor display, his face going pale. "We have incoming vessels. Multiple ships on an intercept course." "The Kryn?" Quan asked. "Worse. It's a corporate security fleet. 12 ships, all armed. They're not here to file legal papers. They're here to take the ship by force." Deho looked at the display showing the approaching fleet. They had maybe 3 hours before the ships arrived. The Eternal Dawn was more awake than it had been in centuries, but it was still not fully operational. Many systems remained offline. The weapons, if the ship even had weapons, were completely untested. "Can we run?" he asked. Taemin shook his head. "We haven't even tested the engines yet. We don't know if they'll work." "Then we're about to find out," Deho said. He placed his hand on the central console in the engineering bay. "AI, can you hear me?" "Affirmative, Captain. We need to leave this salvage yard immediately. Hostile forces are approaching. Can you activate the main engines?" There was a pause that felt like an eternity. "Then main engines can be brought online. Warning. Full system integration at only 37%. Combat capability limited. Recommend immediate departure." "Do it." The ship came alive around them. The deep hum of power that had been barely noticeable became a roar. The entire vessel shuddered as systems that had been dead for 800 years suddenly surged with energy. Through the viewports, they could see the salvage yards automated, warning systems flashing as the Eternal Dawn began to move under its own power. For the first time in centuries, June's voice crackled over the communication system. "Deho, what are you doing?" "You haven't even tested—" "No time," Deho interrupted. "Sorry about the docking clamps. I'll pay for them if we survive." The Eternal Dawn tore free from its berth with surprising gentleness for such a massive vessel. Automated systems guided it away from the other ships in the salvage yard, avoiding collisions by meters. "We need a pilot," Taemin said urgently. "Someone who knows how to fly a ship this size." "I know someone," Deho said, already pulling up his communicator. "Her name is Subin, former military pilot. She owes me a favor. Can she get here in 3 hours? She's going to have to. Daeho wiped the grease from his hands and looked up at the massive orbital salvage yard floating above Venros Prime. Hundreds of broken ships filled the space around him, each one a failure in someone's eyes. He had come here looking for cheap parts to fix his small shuttle, nothing more. His career as a mechanic had ended badly 2 years ago, when he questioned his corporate bosses about unsafe designs. They blacklisted him across the entire sector. Now he survived by doing small repairs for anyone who would hire him. The salvage yard belonged to June, a four-armed alien who had seen every type of ship imaginable pass through his facility. June's species, the Venrosians, were known for their practical nature and sharp business sense. When Daeho landed his shuttle in the visitor bay, June greeted him with a tired wave of two of his arms. "Looking for parts again, human?" June asked. His voice carried the raspy quality common to his people. "Just some power couplings and maybe a sensor array if the price is right," Daeho replied. He followed June through the maze of floating debris and decommissioned vessels. They passed destroyer-class warships, stripped down to their frames, luxury yachts with burned-out engines and cargo haulers that had seen better centuries. Each ship had a story of failure attached to it. Each one had been deemed not worth saving by someone with more money and less imagination than Daeho possessed. Then he saw it. The ship dominated an entire section of the salvage yard, easily 2 kilometers long. Its hull was dark gray, almost black, with strange patterns running along its surface like veins under skin. The design was unlike anything Daeho had seen in his 15 years working with ships. It looked organic somehow, as if someone had grown it rather than built it. "What's that?" Daeho asked, stopping in his tracks. June followed his gaze and made a sound like a sigh. "That's the VSS Eternal Dawn, 800 years old. Been sitting here for 10 years now. Nobody wants it. Why not? Because it's cursed, broken, impossible to fix. Pick your reason." June counted on his fingers. "The fusion cores are dead. The AI is corrupted beyond recovery. The hull has fractures everywhere. Only 23% structural integrity left. The materials it's made from don't respond to modern repair tools. 12 different buyers have looked at it. 12 different buyers walked away. It takes up space I could use for ships that might actually sell." Daeho moved closer, his eyes scanning the vessel's surface. The patterns he had noticed weren't just decorative. They formed mathematical sequences, fractals that repeated at different scales. He had studied ancient engineering techniques during his academy days, back when he still thought he might make a difference in the corporate shipbuilding world. These patterns meant something. What civilization built it? He asked. "The Caliph. They went extinct about 800 years ago when their star went supernova. This was one of their warships, or so the records say. The inspection reports are all in the database if you want to waste your time reading them." Daeho did want to read them. He spent the next 3 hours in June's office, going through every document related to the Eternal Dawn. The inspection reports painted a grim picture. Every system had failed. Every attempt to power up the vessel had resulted in nothing. The ship's computer core wouldn't respond to any known interface protocols. Multiple engineering teams from different species had declared the ship completely dead. But something bothered Daeho about the reports. They all approached the ship as if it were built using standard galactic technology. None of them had considered that the Caliph might have used completely different engineering principles. The fractal patterns on the hull suggested a design philosophy based on self-similar structures, the kind that appeared in nature. What if the ship was meant to repair itself under certain conditions? What if it wasn't broken at all, just dormant? His communicator buzzed. It was his sister Hana, who worked in the administrative office of the salvage yard. She handled the legal paperwork for ship transfers. "Daeho, June told me you're looking at the Eternal Dawn. Please tell me you're not thinking what I think you're thinking." "I'm just looking at the data," he said. "That ship has destroyed the careers of 3 separate engineering firms who promised they could fix it. It's a money pit. It's dangerous. The last team that tried to enter the engineering section barely made it out when part of the deck collapsed under them." "The fractal patterns suggest—" "I don't care what they suggest," Hana interrupted. "You lost your corporate job because you were too stubborn to keep your mouth shut about safety concerns. Don't lose everything else chasing another impossible dream." Daeho ended the call. He knew his sister meant well. She had supported him through the worst period of his life after the blacklisting. She had helped him find work when no one else would. But she didn't understand what he saw in this ship. She didn't see the potential. He walked back out to where June was supervising the dismantling of a cargo freighter. "How much for the Eternal Dawn?" Daeho asked. June's four eyes widened. "You're serious?" "Completely serious. The administrative transfer fees alone would be 5,000 credits. That's just the paperwork. The ship itself, I'd give it to you for free if you can pay the fees and get it out of my yard within 6 months. 5,000 credits. That was almost everything Daeho had saved over the past 2 years. It would leave him broke and gambling everything on a ship that every expert in the sector said was worthless. "I'll take it," he said. Word spread quickly through the salvage yard. By the end of the day, Daeho had become the laughingstock of every mechanic, salvager, and pilot in the facility. They placed bets on how long it would take him to give up. Most gave him less than a week. Hana was furious. She processed the transfer paperwork with tight lips and angry eyes, barely speaking to him. That evening, Daeho took a shuttle over to the Eternal Dawn alone. He had been given temporary access codes to the basic airlock systems. The outer hull was cold when he touched it, but not as cold as space should have made it. The metal felt strange under his gloved hand, almost like it had a texture that shifted when he wasn't looking directly at it. The airlock opened with a hiss of stale air. Emergency lighting flickered in the corridor beyond, dim red lights that shouldn't have had any power after 800 years. According to all the reports, the ship had been completely dead for centuries. Daeho stepped inside. The corridor stretched ahead of him, walls covered in the same fractal patterns he had seen on the exterior. The emergency lights flickered again, brighter this time. He walked deeper into the ship, following signs in an alien language he couldn't read, but could somehow understand the basic meaning of through universal pictographs. He found the main engineering bay after 20 minutes of walking. It was enormous, easily the size of a small space station's dock, and at the center, integrated into every surface, were thousands of crystalline nodes that glowed with the faintest hint of internal light. They pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat that had almost stopped but hadn't quite died. Daeho approached the nearest node and pulled out his scanner. The readings made no sense. The crystal was registering biological signatures mixed with technological components. It was neither fully organic nor fully machine. It was something in between. He reached out and touched it. The node pulsed brighter. All around the engineering bay, other nodes began to respond, their light growing stronger. The emergency lighting in the corridor behind him stabilized, no longer flickering but glowing with steady illumination. Daeho smiled. The ship wasn't dead. It was sleeping, and somehow his touch had begun to wake it up.